Good evening. I can't remember in all the speeches that I've been able to deliver and audiences I've been honored to address, ever feeling more at home than I do tonight. As a person of faith and a person whose work is motivated by my faith, I do feel truly at home among this community and honored to bring the message of water.org and the people we serve to you tonight. I grew up just a few miles from here in St. Bernadette's Parish, just over the border in Kansas City. And I was educated by a community of sisters in grade school. And I can't launch into my remarks tonight without recognizing the spiritual education that Sister Candor gave me tonight, and hopefully all of you. Thank you, Sister, for those words. Stephen, Chandra, thank you for the introduction. And I extend my gratitude to the community of Christ on behalf of all the people at water.org and those we serve. It's a particular honor to share the International Peace Award with Sister Candor in the Franciscan Mission Warehouse. I'm so glad to be here with all of you this evening as we seek solutions to abolishing poverty and ending needless suffering. And I want to start by telling you about a woman I met recently in Uganda. An older woman, her name was Mama Florence Waswa. And several times a day, she would get on her bicycle and ride to collect water. And that's how she spent much of her day, every day, because she had no other choice. When you think about it, until you get water each day, nothing else matters. That was the case for Mama Waswa. Now, hundreds of millions of people live that way every day. 844 million, to be exact. That's how many people lack a drinking water source within a 30-minute walk of their home. Even more people, 2.3 billion people, lack access to basic sanitation. That's 1 in every 3 people without the dignity of a toilet. Women and girls spend over 200 million hours each day searching for a place just to go to relieve themselves. Lack of access to water and sanitation is costing them time, but it's also costing them money. I've met people in India who are paying loan sharks 125% interest just so they can get the money that they need to build a simple toilet. People are paying every day to go use public latrines. They're buying water from vendors at a cost 10 to 15 times higher than what other people near them are paying for tap water. What we've found is it's truly expensive to be poor. Altogether, $300 billion are spent on what we call coping costs. $300 billion each year on the part of people to cope with this crisis. But within that problem, you can find a solution. So let me tell you what Mama Florence's life is like today. First, she installed a water pump and a storage tank at her home. Now she's able to sell water to her neighbors. She's also using the water to grow vegetables. And some of those vegetables she actually feeds to some pigs that she started to raise. She's also using the water to make bricks. And she used those bricks to add some small rooms onto her house so she could rent them out. But what she's proud of the most is now she's making enough money to send her grandchildren to school. So how did all of that happen? Mama Florence got a loan so small you might not think it could even make a difference in someone's life. $275. But that loan obviously has made all the difference in her life. That loan was enough to set this virtuous cycle into motion, to unleash all of her entrepreneurial energy. And because of her earnings, she's able to now repay that loan in full. So we ask, what if? What if more of the world's poorest people could get a loan like Mama Florence? What if, instead of paying loan sharks and scraping together just enough money to survive, they could get a small loan and change their own lives for the long term by putting in a water tap or a toilet in their home? So in fact, millions of people, half of whom live on less than $2 a day, are doing just that. And nearly all, a whopping 99% of these people, repay their loans in full. What I've just described is a model we launched a decade ago called Water Credit. And now the numbers have gone up even further than what Stephen had mentioned. 16 million people have connected to water and sanitation systems, and now we reach an additional 1.25 million people every quarter. We truly believe that the poor are not a problem to be solved, but a market to be served. This isn't just a problem of charity, it's a challenge of capital. And Water.org works with local partners around the world, and for every dollar we invest in our partners, they invest $47 in water and sanitation loan improvements. That multiplier effect is how we've used $27 million in philanthropic capital to mobilize more than $1 billion in loans. But that's just the start. We see this as an evidence base we need to drive system change, to move beyond just traditional charity. Now, don't get me wrong, because I know, and we all know, that philanthropic capital is important and it can be a powerful force. It can change lives. But it does have limits. Commercial capital is what can change the whole equation. Again, what we've identified is not just a humanitarian crisis, but it's also a market failure. And when you enlist the financial markets in this solution, you've turned a market failure into a market opportunity. Now, as an engineer, by training, I am a numbers guy, so I don't make statements like this lightly. But the transformative power of this model really is off the charts. If more commercial capital comes into the picture, it can change the system. It can change the lives of hundreds of millions of people like Mama Florence. People who no longer have to rely on traditional charity. So we must continue to draw on that philanthropic capital to grease the wheels of this market and to drive further financial innovation. Now, in fact, 4 years ago, it was strategic philanthropic partners that funded the launch of a new organization called Water Equity. As an investment fund manager, Water Equity now taps into the power of social impact investing to greatly scale up our impact. For each $1 million of assets that we have under management, we can reach 100,000 people with water while providing a return on capital as well as the return of capital to the investors. So we can combine smart philanthropy with this type of social impact capital to reach the vast majority of the 2.3 billion people who lack access to water and sanitation. So there's a quote up here by someone who I admire, Hans Rosling. If any of you have heard of the book Factfulness, I would encourage you to read it. Unfortunately, we lost Hans last year, but he spoke very eloquently here about this. The race to end extreme poverty is a marathon with the starter gun fired in 1800. This next generation has a unique opportunity to complete the job, to pick up the baton, cross the line, and raise its hands in triumph. This is an inspiration to me. I think it's an inspiration to all of the people that work with water.org, knowing that there are these billions of people who lack access to water and sanitation, but they shouldn't lack access to hope. And they do have that. And we can solve this crisis, and I believe we can do it in our lifetime. Thank you.